Armin had always lived a quiet life. He was the kind of person who preferred calm evenings, simple routines, and peaceful walks home after work. People often described him as thoughtful, someone who listened more than he spoke. He liked that about himself. He never imagined that his calm life would be shaken by something far beyond anything he had ever read or seen in movies. But everything began to change on a night that seemed completely normal at first. The first strange sign was small, almost too small to notice. For several nights, Armin heard a soft buzzing sound in his room. It wasn't loud, but it was constant, like a faint vibration in the air. At first, he thought it was a simple electrical problem, maybe a loose wire or an old bulb. But when he switched off the electricity, the buzzing continued. It felt like the sound was not coming from the walls or the ceiling, but from the air itself. He shook his head and tried to ignore it, thinking it was just stress or tiredness. But the next night, the sound grew slightly stronger. It wasn't painful, but it was strange, as if the sound was calling for attention. When he lay down to sleep, he closed his eyes and tried to push it away. But then he noticed something even stranger. Every time he breathed in, the buzzing grew clearer, almost as if it was syncing with his breath. He opened his eyes quickly, feeling a short wave of fear, but the room looked completely normal. Nothing moved. Nothing glowed. Nothing seemed out of place. Finally, he forced himself to sleep. Convincing his mind that it was nothing serious, days passed. Armin tried to forget about the sound, but forgetting became impossible. Now the lights in his room started flickering randomly. It wasn't like the flickers caused by low voltage. These flickers were different. They happened only when he entered the room. The moment he stepped inside, the bulb would blink twice, softly, almost like a greeting. When he left, the light remained perfectly stable. He tested it several times, opening and closing the door, stepping in and out, but the same pattern continued. It was as if the room recognized him. Armin began to feel uneasy. He didn't want to worry his family or friends, so he kept everything to himself. He hoped it was temporary, something that would pass on its own. But deep down, he felt something unusual was happening. Something he couldn't explain with simple logic. Then came the dreams, or what he first thought were dreams. Every night, he saw bright symbols floating in the air, glowing softly like fireflies. They weren't letters or numbers. They looked more like shapes from another world. Sometimes they formed a circle around him, moving slowly in a smooth rhythm. Other times they appeared one by one, shining for a moment before fading into darkness. Each dream felt real, almost too real, as if he wasn't dreaming at all. What confused him the most was that he didn't feel scared during these dreams. Instead, he felt calm, comforted even. It was as if the symbols were trying to show him something, or communicate in a way he couldn't understand. Every morning he woke up with the shapes still clear in his mind, like they were carved into his memory. He even tried drawing them, but every time he lifted his pencil, he forgot the exact details. The moment he tried to put them on paper, his mind blurred, and the shapes slipped away like water through fingers. Armin's routine began to feel different. His mornings felt heavier, his nights felt louder, and his thoughts were filled with questions. He wondered if he should see a doctor, but he knew this didn't feel like any normal illness. It was something else, something he had no words for. One evening, after an especially long day at work, he decided to take a slow walk home. It was late and the streets were quiet. The air was cool and the sky was clear, with a bright moon shining over the rooftops. Walking always helped him relax, and tonight he needed that more than ever. As he walked down the empty street, he tried to clear his mind. No symbols. No buzzing. No strange lights. Just the sound of his footsteps on the road. But peace didn't last long. Halfway home, he suddenly felt the air shift. It became lighter, almost thin, as if something had pressed pause on the world. The buzzing sound returned, this time louder than ever, but not painful. It felt like the sound was not around him, but inside him, calling him from deep within. He stopped walking and stood completely still. The street around him was silent. Not a car, not a dog, not even the wind made a sound. Everything was frozen. Then he heard it. A voice, soft at first, like an echo from a distant place. But the voice wasn't coming from any direction. It came from everywhere above him, around him, and inside his mind. Arman. His heart skipped a beat. The voice was calm, elegant, almost warm. It didn't feel threatening. It felt familiar, but he had no idea why. He looked around quickly, trying to find someone, anyone, who could have said his name. But the street was empty, completely empty. The voice called again, a bit clearer this time. Arman. Come. He felt chills running down his arms. Not from fear, but from the strange feeling that he was meant to hear this. That this moment was waiting for him. Before he could react, something even more shocking happened. The ground under his feet grew softer, like he was stepping on air instead of solid road. The wind returned suddenly, but not from the side. It came from below him. The world seemed to tilt. A bright light burst from the sky, so white and powerful that he had to shield his eyes. It wasn't like any light he had seen before. It didn't hurt to look at. Instead, it felt warm, almost peaceful. Like a glowing hand reaching out to him. His body lifted gently from the ground, weightless as a feather. He tried to move, but he couldn't. Not because he was trapped, but because the light held him softly. Like a strong but gentle current guiding him upward, the world grew smaller beneath him. The rooftops, the road, the streetlight, saw shrinking as he rose higher and higher. The buzzing grew louder, blending with the voice that kept calling him. He wanted to ask, "Who are you?" He wanted to shout, "What is happening?" But his voice didn't come out. The light grew brighter, wrapping around him completely, and for the first time since everything began. Arman felt something he had not felt before. He felt chosen, just before everything went white. He heard the voice one last time, clearer than ever. Calm and strong. "We have been waiting for you." In that moment, Arman knew his life would never be the same again. Arman slowly opened his eyes, unsure if he was awake or still dreaming. The first thing he noticed was the silence. It wasn't the silence of an empty room, it was deeper, as if every sound in the world had been carefully removed. For a moment, he wondered if he was still floating in that bright light. But when his vision cleared, he realized he was lying on a smooth surface that felt neither cold nor warm, like a material that didn't belong to Earth at all. He sat up slowly and looked around. The place was unlike anything Arman had seen in his entire life. The walls were not made of bricks or metal. They seemed alive, shifting gently like silver water flowing in slow waves. Soft, glowing blue lights floated freely in the air, moving gently around him like harmless fireflies. They didn't create shadows, and they didn't flicker. They simply glowed, giving the whole room a calm and peaceful look. Arman touched the floor with his hand. It felt smooth but strong, and when he pressed his fingers harder, the surface rippled like a thin layer of liquid. He pulled his hand back quickly, surprised, but the ripples disappeared instantly, and the floor returned to normal. "Where am I?" he whispered to himself. His voice echoed strangely, as if the room was listening. Arman stood up slowly. He felt no dizziness, no pain, no fear. Instead, he felt a deep calmness, almost like something was comforting him from inside. He took a few steps forward, and the blue lights followed him gently, as if they were curious. He reached the center of the room. Suddenly, a part of the wall melted away, forming an opening. He stepped back, startled, but the blue lights circled him slowly, almost encouraging him to move forward. Taking a deep breath, Arman walked through the opening. On the other side was a long, wide hallway that seemed endless. The walls glowed softly, casting a calm silver blue light over everything. The hallway was completely silent, but it didn't feel empty. There was a presence in the air. Something watching, but not in a frightening way, more like a caretaker checking on a guest as he walked. He noticed there were no doors, no windows, and no corners. Everything was smooth, flowing gently like it was made from a single piece of living material. Then suddenly, he saw them. At the far end of the hallway stood two tall beings. They were unlike any humans he had ever seen, yet their appearance didn't frighten him. They were at least 7 feet tall, with long, slender limbs and gentle movements. Their skin had a soft glow, almost like moonlight. Their faces were calm and peaceful, with large, expressive eyes that seemed to hold centuries of knowledge. The two beings walked toward him slowly and gracefully. Every step they took made the floor shimmer slightly, as if the ship itself welcomed them. Armin felt his heart race, but not with fear. These beings didn't feel threatening. In fact, their presence brought a strange comfort. As if he had met them before in his dreams, one of them stopped a few steps away from him. It tilted its head slightly, observing him with gentle curiosity. Then, without moving its mouth, a soft voice echoed in Armin's mind. "Do not be afraid." Armin stepped back in surprise. He looked around, confused. He knew the being hadn't spoken with its mouth. Yet the words were clear. The second being raised a hand slowly, showing it meant no harm. Its fingers were long and elegant, and a soft blue light glowed from its palm. "You are safe," the same soft voice said inside his mind. Armin took a deep breath and nodded weakly. Still trying to understand, the first being turned around and motioned for him to follow. Armin hesitated for a moment, but then stepped forward. After all, he had no idea where he was or how he got here. The only thing he knew for sure was that these beings were not hurting him. They seemed calm, respectful, almost patient. He walked behind them as they guided him through the glowing hallway. The lights brightened with each step he took, as if the ship recognized his presence. It made him wonder if this place was alive, not in the way animals or humans were alive, but in some advanced, intelligent form. After a few minutes, they reached a large circular chamber. The moment Armin stepped inside, he felt a soft vibration under his feet. The air felt different, thicker. It was filled with energy he couldn't explain. At the far end of the chamber stood a throne-like structure made of pure light. It wasn't solid. It glowed like the surface of a star, and sitting on it was a being unlike the others. Armin's breath caught in his chest. She was taller, brighter, and more graceful than the rest. Her entire form shimmered with silver and gold light, and when she opened her eyes, the whole room seemed to respond. The walls brightened. The floor steadied. Even the floating lights slowed down, as if giving her full attention. Armin realized instantly who she was. She was the queen, the alien queen. Her presence was strong, yet peaceful, as powerful yet gentle. She looked at Armin with eyes that held both kindness and wisdom beyond anything he had ever imagined. The two beings who brought him bowed respectfully and then stepped aside. Armin stood alone in the center of the chamber, unsure what to do. His legs felt weak, but he couldn't look away from her. It wasn't fear that froze him, it was awe. The queen didn't speak with her mouth. Instead, her voice echoed clearly through his mind, calm and steady. "Armin, you have arrived." Her voice felt familiar, the same voice he heard on the street, calling his name. Armin swallowed hard and tried to speak out loud. "Why? Why am I here?" The queen stood slowly, her movements smooth like flowing light. She floated a few steps closer, and the glowing throne shifted behind her, returning to pure energy. "You were summoned," she said in his mind. "Not taken. Not forced. Summoned." Armin blinked. "But why me? I'm just a normal person." The queen raised her hand, and suddenly the room filled with soft images floating in the air, moments from Armin's life. His childhood, his kindness to strangers, his calm nature, his ability to listen, his honesty, even when no one was watching. Armin gasped. How did they know all this? The queen's voice softened. "You are not here because of power. You are not here because of fame. You are here because of your heart." The images faded slowly, and the queen floated closer until she was only a few steps away. For a long time, she continued gently, "We have watched your world. We have seen its progress, but also its pain. We cannot interfere with your world directly, but we can trust someone who understands kindness, patience, and truth." Armin felt a strange warmth in his chest. It wasn't fear. It was something like recognition, as if a part of him already knew this moment was coming. "So, you brought me here to help?" he asked in a shaky voice. The queen nodded slowly, her light becoming even softer. Yes, but the path is long. And first, you must understand us. Armin looked around the chamber again. Suddenly, the silence, the glowing lights, the calm atmosphere, it all made sense. This was not a place to harm him. This was a place of learning, of trust. The queen extended her hand, and a soft spiral of golden light formed in the air. Come, she said gently. There is much to show you. Armin took a deep breath, stepped forward, and reached toward the light. He felt warmth, peace, and a new sense of purpose. At that moment, he knew this journey was only beginning. Armin stepped closer to the golden spiral of light, unsure of what would happen next. The warmth from it spread through his skin like gentle sunlight. The surface of the spiral moved like soft smoke, but felt solid when he touched it. The alien queen raised her other hand slightly, and the spiral opened wider. Forming what looked like a window made of glowing air, Armin stared at it with wide eyes. At first, he saw nothing but bright color. But slowly, shapes began to form inside the light. They were not random shapes. They were scenes. Real scenes. Real moments. He was looking at Earth's his own world. He saw cities full of tall buildings. Children playing in parks, families walking on the streets. He saw oceans stretching far beyond the horizon, forests full of life, mountains touching the clouds. These were beautiful things, things he loved about his world. He smiled quietly as the images moved around him, but the queen's calm voice echoed again in his mind. Look closely, Armin. The glowing scene shifted, and now the images changed. He saw pollution rising from factories, plastic floating in oceans, forests burning. The scenes moved quickly, showing people fighting, nations arguing, storms becoming stronger, animals struggling to survive. Armin felt a heavy feeling in his chest as he watched. He whispered under his breath, "This is all real." The queen nodded slowly, her light dimming and brightening with each word. We have observed your world for many ages. We study life, growth, and the future of many planets. Earth is special. It has great beauty, great heart, but also great danger. Armin continued watching the images, unable to look away. A large map of Earth formed in front of him, glowing like a hologram. Parts of it flickered red, showing rising risks: environmental damage, climate change, growing conflicts. Armin took a small step back. But many people are trying to help. There are good people too, the queen said gently. Earth has many hearts full of hope, but the balance is delicate. Small actions lead to big changes, both good and bad. The room grew quieter, and the images around him slowly faded. Armin lifted his head and looked at the queen. He wanted to ask something, but he didn't know how to put it into words. The queen understood his confusion and continued. Armin, we did not bring you here to scare you. We brought you to understand. Armin nodded slowly. Why me? There are so many people on Earth. Why choose someone like me? I'm not a leader. I'm not famous. I'm not powerful.
Ow.
The queen's soft glow brightened again, and she floated closer to him. That is exactly why you were chosen. Armin blinked in surprise. You see, the queen continued. Powerful people have responsibilities, pressure, and loud voices that are often heard but not always trusted. Fame can create attention but not always connection. Leaders have many tasks, and sometimes they cannot listen to everything. Armin swallowed, still unsure. You, the queen said gently, have a different strength, a quiet strength. She lifted her hand, and the room filled with images again, but these were not Earth's problems. These were moments from Armin's own life. He saw himself helping an old man cross a busy road. He saw himself giving his lunch to a classmate who forgot theirs. He saw himself comforting a crying child in a park, even though he didn't know the child at all. He saw himself stepping in during a small argument at work, calming both sides with patience. None of these moments were big. None were extraordinary, but each one was done with kindness, honesty, and a gentle heart. Armin stared, speechless. He had never thought about these moments again after they happened. The queen's voice softened even more. You do not act for reward. You do not act for praise. You act because your heart guides you to do what is right, even when no one sees. Armand felt his throat tighten. He never thought someone would notice such small things, let alone beings from another world. We do not choose by rank or title, the queen said. We choose by truth, and your truth is pure. Armand looked down, unsure how to respond. A strange, warm feeling grew in his chest. Not pride, but something deeper. A mix of responsibility and humility. The queen turned and motioned toward the glowing spiral again. There is more we must show you. The spiral shifted once more, this time revealing images of the alien civilization. Their cities hovered among the stars, glowing softly with peaceful energy. Their buildings were tall but gentle in design. No sharp edges, no signs of aggression. Their people moved calmly, helping each other without hesitation. There was no fighting, no shouting, no chaos. Every action seemed balanced and thoughtful. These are our worlds, the queen explained. They are not perfect. No world is, but we have learned to grow without destroying, to progress without harming, to live without letting fear rule our hearts. Armin watched with a sense of wonder. The technology was thousands of years ahead of Earth, yet everything felt surprisingly humble. There were no giant weapons, no armies, no machines built to hurt. Everything was designed to protect life, not destroy it. But how did you achieve this? Armand asked in a soft voice. How did your people reach this level of peace? The queen looked at him with gentle eyes. We learned from our mistakes, and we listened to voices that were small but wise. Armand understood the meaning behind those words. She wasn't talking about technology. She was talking about the values that built their society. She floated closer and raised her hand again. A new image appeared, one that looked like a bright wave of energy spreading across Earth. This is what we hope for your world, the queen said. A wave of calmness, understanding, and unity. But it cannot begin from power. It must begin from a human heart. Armand felt a strong emotion swelling inside him. He didn't know if it was fear, inspiration, or something new altogether. The idea of being chosen for something so big made him feel both small and important at the same time. So you want me to be some kind of messenger? He asked quietly. Not a messenger, the queen replied. A light, Armand blinked. But I'm only one person. What can one person do? The queen moved even closer, until her light surrounded him like a warm blanket. One person can change another. That person can change 3. 3 can change 10. 10 can change 100. 100 can change a city. A city can change a nation. And a nation can change the world. Armand took a deep breath. The weight of her words settled into his heart. We do not ask you to save your world alone, the queen said. We ask you to begin. Armand stood silent, staring into the golden glow. Everything felt unreal, yet completely true. I'm scared, he finally admitted. That means you understand the importance, the queen said gently. Fear is not weakness. It is the beginning of wisdom. Armand slowly lifted his head. What do I need to do? The queen extended her hand once more, and a small sphere of soft light floated toward him. First, she said, you must learn. Then you must return. And then, you must be ready. Armand reached out and touched the sphere. The moment his fingers brushed it, a warm, peaceful energy flowed through his body, and he knew this was only the beginning of the purpose he never expected to have. Armand held the soft sphere of light in his hands, feeling its gentle warmth move through his fingers like a calm wave. It didn't burn, and it didn't shock him. Instead, it felt as if the light itself understood him, his thoughts, his doubts, his hopes. The alien queen watched silently, giving him time to adjust to the strange but peaceful energy now flowing through him. As he focused on the sphere, it slowly floated out of his palms and rose into the air. Then it burst not loudly, but softly like a bubble of light, spreading golden particles around him. The tiny particles circled him in beautiful patterns, moving with perfect harmony. They wrapped around his arms, shoulders, and head. Forming a bright ring around him, Armand felt a strange sensation in his mind. Like a door was being unlocked gently, not forced open. His thoughts became clearer. He could sense new feelings, new ideas, and new understanding taking shape inside him. It wasn't scary. It was like learning a new language instantly, without effort. The Queen stepped closer, her calm voice echoing inside his mind. This light will help you understand our ways. It will let your mind see what your eyes cannot. Armand exhaled softly. I can feel something changing. You are connecting, she said. Not to us, but to yourself, to the truth inside you. The golden particles moved faster. And suddenly, the room dissolved around Armand. He felt his feet leave the ground. And the world shifted again, not violently, but smoothly, like drifting into a dream. When the light faded, Armand found himself standing in what looked like a large, open space. The sky above him shimmered like liquid silver. The ground beneath him glowed softly, almost transparent. And across the horizon, he could see floating structures, beautiful, smooth. Curved shapes that looked like a mixture of art and light rather than simple buildings. He looked around in awe. This is your world. A calm voice behind him answered, not the physical one. This is our memory space. Armand turned and saw the alien queen standing directly behind him. But she looked slightly different, here brighter, more radiant, her form shifting like energy. What is a memory space? He asked. It is a place where knowledge exists without limits, she explained. Thoughts become shapes. Emotions become colors. Here you will understand what words cannot explain. Armand nodded slowly, still trying to take in everything around him. The Queen gestured toward the horizon. Walk with me. Armand followed her as they moved through the glowing landscape. With each step, the ground rippled gently, as if greeting them. In the distance, Armand saw silhouettes stall, graceful figures walking through the space. They didn't touch the ground. They floated gently, like soft clouds drifting across the sky. Are they real? Armand asked quietly. They are memories, the Queen replied. Echoes of our past, preserved so our future may learn. Armand watched the figures closely. They moved with calm purpose, helping one another, sharing ideas, working together without any signs of conflict or anger. Their movements were slow, but full of meaning. How long did it take your people to reach this level of peace? Armand asked. Many ages, the Queen said. We made mistakes, just as your world does now. But we learned. Slowly, carefully, painfully, and we chose balance over power. As they continued walking, the memory space shifted again. The sky dimmed, turning deep blue. Stars appeared above them, bright and closer than any stars Armand had seen on Earth. Suddenly, huge shapes appeared across the sky, giant rings of light forming and spinning slowly. They connected to each other, stretching across the heavens in a perfect web of glowing pathways. Armand's mouth opened in awe. What is that? Our wisdom network, the Queen answered. It holds the memories of our ancestors. It guides us when we face difficult choices. It reminds us of who we were, who we are, and who we must become. Armand stared at the massive rings, listening to a soft vibration coming from them. It wasn't noise. It was like the entire sky was humming gently, almost like a peaceful song. He felt the sound inside his heart. Your world is beautiful, he whispered. The Queen looked at him. Every world can be beautiful, Armand. What you saw earlier, the challenges of Earth, those can also change. Armand sighed. But humans argue so much. People fight. They get angry. They hurt each other. And the Earth suffers because of it. That is true, the Queen said softly. But remember this, every great change begins small. Armand nodded slowly. He was starting to understand. The scene changed again. This time, the memory space showed a darker moment. A great storm filled the sky. Buildings shook violently. Beings ran in every direction, trying to protect each other. The ground broke apart. The peaceful world Armand had seen earlier was now in chaos. Armand tensed. What happened? This was our darkest time, the Queen said. We lost much. We were separated. We feared for our future. Armand watched helplessly as the storm grew stronger. It wasn't a normal storm. It looked like a giant wave of pure energy sweeping across the land, destroying anything in its path. How did you survive? Armand asked. The Queen stepped forward, her voice quiet but steady. We survived by remembering who we were, creatures of unity. Not fear, not conflict. We rebuilt. We listened to our wisest hearts. We changed ourselves before we changed our world. The storm faded, and the scene brightened again into the peaceful land he had seen earlier. Your world is not lost, the Queen said. It is simply at a turning point. Armand took a deep breath. But I'm still just one person. One person, the Queen said gently, can inspire many. Armand closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered his own world, his street, his people, the quiet life he once had. Could he really become a light for others? Could he help even a little? When he opened his eyes, the memory space began to dissolve. The sky, the structures, the glowing ground all turned into golden dust, swirling around him like soft wind. Soon Armand was back in the large chamber inside the ship. The Queen stood before him, her glowing eyes watching him with calm patience. What you saw, she said, is not a burden. It is guidance. Armand exhaled slowly. I understand now. Queen moved closer. Are you ready for the next step? Armand felt nervous, but he nodded. Yes. A soft light formed around the Queen's hand. It floated toward Armand, growing brighter. This light will prepare your heart, she said. Your journey is not only about knowledge, it is about strength inner strength. Armand felt the light surround him, warm and protective. He closed his eyes as it touched him gently, filling him with a calm courage he had never felt before. You will soon return to your world, the Queen said, but your heart will carry everything you have learned here. Armand opened his eyes slowly. Will I ever see you again? The Queen looked at him with a soft expression. When the time is right. Armand felt a small ache in his chest, as if he already missed a place he had only just discovered. He wasn't ready to leave, but he knew he had to. The Queen lifted her hand one last time. Your world is waiting, Armand, and now. So are you. Armand felt the light grow brighter around him, wrapping him gently like a warm blanket. Everything turned white, and his journey toward home and toward. His new purpose was about to begin. Part 5 began with a silence that felt heavy, as if the entire universe was holding its breath. Daniel stood on the final platform inside the Queen's chamber, staring at the shimmering sphere that held the secret to saving both Earth and Elindra. The alien Queen watched him closely, her silver eyes calm but filled with a deep hope. She had chosen him for a reason, and now that reason was reaching its last point. Daniel felt unsure, but he also felt stronger than before. He had come a long way from being confused and afraid to understanding the weight of the mission on his shoulders. The Queen stepped forward and told him that once the sphere was activated, there would be no turning back. The energy would spread across both worlds, restoring the balance. But only if Daniel focused his mind and kept his thoughts steady. If he hesitated, the sphere could fail, and the connection between the two planets could break forever. He nodded slowly. His heart was racing, but his mind was firm. The Queen placed her hand on the sphere, and its light grew brighter. Daniel took a deep breath and placed his hand beside hers. Instantly, the chamber filled with warm light. It wrapped around Daniel, lifting him gently into the air. He could feel the memories of Elindra, the voices of its people, and the hopes they held whispering around him like a calm wind. The energy entered him like a slow, rising tide. He saw images of forests, oceans, and shining cities that once thrived. He saw the moment they began to weaken, and he understood that Elindra was not just a distant planet. It was a place that breathed like Earth did, a place that had dreams, a place that wanted to survive. The connection between the two worlds was more meaningful than he had ever imagined. They were not separate. They were tied together in a way that humans had never known. The sphere responded to his thoughts. Its light pulsed brighter and brighter. Daniel's mind felt clearer, as if the doubts and fears that once clouded him were being washed away. For the first time, he felt like he truly belonged in this strange, beautiful world. The queen spoke softly, guiding him through the process. She told him to think of the moments that shaped him, the strength he found in difficult times, the courage he used when he was unsure of himself. Daniel focused on every memory he could think of. He remembered his family, his home, his old life on Earth. He remembered the day the queen first summoned him, and how confused he was. But he also remembered the kindness she showed him, and the friendship he had slowly built with her people. All those moments shaped the energy building inside him. And the sphere grew brighter until it felt like standing inside a star. Then it happened. A wave of pure light burst from the sphere and spread across the chamber. It moved through the palace, rushed into the sky, and scattered into the wide universe. The queen watched carefully, her expression hopeful and proud. Daniel felt weightless, as if he was part of the light itself. He heard the hum of energy growing louder until it became a soft, warm vibration that comforted him instead of frightening him. After a few moments, the light slowly faded. Daniel was lowered onto the platform, and the chamber returned to its calm, soft glow. He felt tired but peaceful. The queen stepped closer, her silver eyes shining brighter than before. She told him the sphere had accepted him completely, and the connection between Earth and Alindra had been restored successfully. Daniel felt relief spread through him. For the first time since this journey began, he felt like he had truly done something meaningful. The queen raised her hand and touched his shoulder gently. She thanked him in a quiet voice that carried deep respect. She said he had done something even her own people could not do. Daniel looked up at her, surprised. He told her he only did what he felt was right, and she smiled softly, saying that sometimes the simplest truth is what makes someone a hero. Outside the palace, the sky was changing. The dull, pale clouds that once hung over Alindra slowly dissolved, revealing a bright horizon. The colors were rich and warm, spreading from gold to soft blue. Daniel stepped outside with the queen and her advisors. They all looked at the sky with joy and wonder. The air felt lighter, and the wind carried a new freshness, as if the planet itself had taken a deep breath after a long sleep. The people of Alindra gathered around the palace. Their faces shone with relief as they felt the new energy spreading across their land. Many of them smiled at Daniel, some bowing their heads slightly. He felt humbled. He never imagined he would stand on another world, let alone help save it. Yet, here he was, someone who once lived an ordinary life, now being thanked by an entire civilization, but the journey was not over yet. The queen explained that Daniel had one more choice to make. Now that the connection between the two worlds had been restored, the energy created a stable pathway between Earth and Alindra. That meant he could either return home or stay with the Alindrans to help them rebuild their world. Both choices were important. The queen told him she would respect whichever he made. Daniel walked through the palace gardens, thinking deeply. The flowers were glowing softly in the returning sunlight. Every step he took released small sparks of color from the plants, as if the planet was welcoming its rebirth. He thought about everything that had happened, the challenges, the discoveries, the growth. He thought about Earth and the people waiting for him there. But he also thought about Alindra and how much more he could learn and help. The queen found him in the garden and waited quietly until he turned to face her. She asked if he had made his choice. Daniel nodded slowly. He told her he wanted to return to Earth for now, not because he was leaving Alindra behind, but because he wanted to share everything he learned. He believed Earth could grow too, and maybe one day both worlds could help each other in ways no one had imagined before. The queen accepted his decision with grace. She said that the connection between their worlds would stay open, and he would always have a place on Alindra whenever he wished to return. Daniel felt grateful. He bowed slightly, and the queen responded with a respectful gesture of her own. The energy gateway opened bright, stable, and warm. He stepped toward it with confidence. As he crossed the portal, he felt the world of Alindra fade behind him, but not disappear. It remained like a gentle light inside him, a place he could always carry. When he opened his eyes again, he was back on Earth. The sky above was familiar, the air warm, and the world peaceful. But Daniel knew he was no longer the same person. His heart carried the lessons of Alindra. The courage he found there, and the strange, an unforgettable journey that had changed him forever. He looked up at the sky one last time, knowing that far beyond it, an alien queen and her people were rebuilding their world with hope that he helped create. And deep inside, Daniel knew this was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning of a connection that would shape the future of both worlds for many years to come.